It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Do you love the Tabernacle Choir? This year, the choir's music is everywhere you are. Listen to your favorite choir songs and music and the spoken word anytime you want on Alexa by simply enabling the skill.
Alexa, play music in the spoken word.
Now playing music in the spoken word.
You can also download the Tabernacle Choir app, subscribe to the choir on YouTube, listen on Spotify, and have access to all their wonderful music. Happy listening.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The KSL Give-a-Thon is underway, benefiting Primary Children's Hospital. PK.
What?
They've got stats for me. How awesome is that?
You go, boy.
2025 stats for Salt Lake and the Lehigh campuses combined. Patients benefited from $7.5 million in financial assistance provided by Philanthropy Dollars. That's what we're doing here today. Raising dollars to help folks get the medical care they need. Intermountain has 24/7 access to 240 languages for interpretation, 40 languages in person, and their emergency room saw almost 60,000 patients, 59,865. We'll just go with almost 60,000, PK. So a lot of people need your help, 60,000 people. Raising $7.5 million. We're not going to do all of that today, obviously, but whatever you can do would be appreciated. You can donate online. We're going to have some phone numbers for you. You're going to have some guests throughout the day here on the KSL Sports Zone. Primary Children's has been around since 1922. So anything you can do in the next year over the course of today will be much appreciated. How to donate? You can give online at kslkids.com. kslkids.com. You can also call 801-KSL-KIDS. 801-KSL-KIDS. That's 801-575-5437. And you know all about healthcare crisis, PK. Your family has seen it. Fortunately, you had insurance to cover everything, but my family's seen it too. It's pretty hard to go through very long in life without running into something like this with someone in your family.
Oh, yeah, obviously. It doesn't matter what it is, who it is. I mean, health is the number one thing you need to live. It's as basic as that, right? People, you talk about what are you grateful for. I always say I'm grateful for the walk. I couldn't imagine not being able to walk. It's as simple as that, and it is a basic necessity that just brings so much to life, and there's many people who can, and there's so many other things that slow people down and obviously take people's lives. And my wife, very grateful at the time, it was 13 years ago now, had lymphoma, and it was very dangerous and all that stuff, and it was touch and go, and unfortunately it was more go, and she got past it and did the 5-year checkup and everything, and all you do is you just go, oh my gosh, how fortunate are we? Awful to have to go through it, but we got to the other side of it, and there's plenty of people who don't, so you need these types of things, and this is what it's about, man. It's about living your life and saving lives and helping people, and we need more of that than ever, you can argue.
KSLkids.com if you'd like to donate and help the 60,000 people who go through the emergency room in the Salt Lake and Lehigh campuses of Primary Children's Hospital, Intermountain Health. Love your help. KSLkids.com. Donate online or call 801-KSL-KIDS. 801-KSL-KIDS. 801-575-5437.
Yeah, and then this is for the children, too. I
yep.
had a cousin who died of leukemia at 10, and my aunt and uncle, they literally never recovered.
I believe that. I don't know how you do.
And they had substance issues. My father's brother.
Self-medicating because of the pain of the trauma.
Oh, yeah.
It's a common story. It's a tragic story.
Yeah.
It's a horrific story. And there's just a certain roll of the dice.
Yeah, she was my peer.
Yeah.
And so I was of the same age, and I remember vividly and how difficult it was.
Yeah. And you can go online and donate and help. That'd be great. KSLkids.com. BleacherReport.com. All right, DJ and PK, multiple stories this morning. We're going to talk NBA Finals with Andy Bailey coming up in our next segment. Right now, though, PK, the other big story had a lot of people testifying on Capitol Hill about the need for some type of federal regulation. And one of the people testifying was Utah defensive end Lance Holtzclaw. Another was former Alabama football coach turned broadcaster Nick Saban. And Yak, let him hear what Nick Saban had to say, at least a snippet of it.
Right now in college football, we have no rules. We have state laws. We have different in every state. We have litigation. The NCAA cannot enforce their own rules because every time they try to enforce the rule, there's a lawsuit. I mean, an example would be Ole Miss's quarterback. They say he can't play next year. He's playing next year because of litigation. So, but this is just the way it is. It's become an arm race. Who spends the most has got the best chance to win. But I think it's a race to the bottom because if you don't spend to win, you lose your fan base and you don't have any revenue.
So what are they going to do? And PK, you think they're going to do something, but it's just going to move the bag back at first base?
Well, I'm not sure that the balance of power is going to change. I think what you want is at least the perception of fairness. And right now, it looks like it could be dangerous where there's been decent programs that could get smothered because they can't compete, because there is this arms race. But at the same time, there's always been an arms race. And then you have some folks that are, well, now you want to limit these players' earnings and so forth. I don't think that that's necessarily it. I don't think that anyone's looking. If someone wants to pay some kid, some quarterback, some whomever, $5 million, so be it. But can we have some type of rules and regulations? You're dealing with sports, and then fairness comes in. And can you set something up that allows it to be a little more equitable? And we view sports as, well, if you do the right things, you have a chance. Well, in colleges, though, there's always been tiers. I don't think there'll never not be tiers. And the Ohio States of the world, using them as the example, Notre Dame, you put them on there, they're always going to have the advantages, no matter what you do, unless you just make it communism completely, I guess. But nobody really wants that. And I don't think most of us are telling the powers that be, let's stop paying these kids, because they were ripped off for many years. I used the example that, Van Horn would get no money for kids wearing Van Horn jerseys, or they would have 44 but wouldn't have his name on it. But they bought the thing 44 for their kid because he did love Keith. Yeah. She loved Keith Van Horn and wanted to wear that jersey. And, I use Van Horn because I got to know him so well. And I literally was at multiple apartments inside the apartments of where he lived. And how he tried to, and he had a kid at the time, and he was married, and he was making the university big money, and it wasn't being reciprocated, and then when he signed the contract, and then he bought a house. He bought a house right up the street from me, actually, and so I got to know. I knew him very well, and I said, man, I can remember being at the multiple apartments where he had versus this house, and he says, yeah. Things have changed for me.
Understatement.
Right. And that Huntsman Center, which is empty now comparatively, was packed then. And why was it packed?
Keith. And why is it not packed now? Because they don't have a Keith.
Yeah.
If they get a player up there who's going to be the number 2 pick in the draft, and he's there 4 years, and that won't happen because everything's changed.
Right.
But that would fix it. If Alex Jensen could wave a magic wand and create a Keith Van Horn and an Andre Miller.
But both those guys did come back for their 4th year and showed loyalty to the university when they could have gone. Yeah. And I realize it's different now, but those kids deserve some level of compensation, as did Jimmer. Jimmer's family, his parents and all, they had some financial hardships. And Jimmer, my goodness gracious, you couldn't have paid him enough. It's like the Jordan of the NBA. No matter what you pay Jordan, he's underpaid. Well, the same thing with Jimmer. So I don't think people are saying, let's do away with that. But can we come up with a more sensible way that it's just simply, I go to the Sun Devils. Sam Levitt, he's a hired hand. Okay, I don't begrudge Sam Levitt for going to LSU because he's going to get more money. Well, he had a great thing going in Tempe, and now it's gone. And he'll just be basically a carpetbag dude who was on his way through, and he had a great run, no doubt about it, but he took the most money. Can there be something that can prevent that?
See, that's the thing. Yes, I think there can be. Will it get passed? I kind of doubt it, but it could be. It could be. And the thing is, you like some level of fairness. Ohio State only thinks it's going to be fair, and LSU only thinks it's going to be fair if they can buy Sam Levitt away. And Arizona State's only going to think it's fair if they keep Sam Levitt, right? And to your point, there have always been tiers. At no point in its history has San Diego State ever been on the same tier as Ohio State.
I don't think the Devils have either.
And they're not going to be, right?
Don't expect it.
But
I'm fine with
it's America. So if we work really hard, we should be able to raise ourselves up. And one day, San Diego State went into Columbus and coulda, woulda, shoulda, but didn't. And to have these tiers drawn to say you're in and you're out, that irritates people because there are a lot of schools that have changed their place in college football over time. And I think part of the rules might be, and we'll see, I don't know what the rules are going to be. Part of the rules might prevent that. You know, allow a Super League
have
or
schools
encourage
really
it.
changed their place?
Oh, yeah.
Who?
You don't think? I think Utah's changed its place in it.
Yeah,
I think
but
if you take a bigger
it's
time,
gotten better, but it hasn't. It's changed its place. I agree with you, but it's never going to be at the top.
I agree. But people want to go from, hey, we were in the bottom of the WAC to we were at the top of the Pac-12. Now at the top of the Pac-12, they still couldn't beat Ohio State and Penn State in the Rose Bowl. There was still clearly a tier to go.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I agree, but they want the right to test themselves even if they fail sometimes.
They'll get that. But you're never going to, and you might even do it, but you're not going to do it consistently.
That I agree with both of those things, but I think there is a worry that if the Feds start drawing lines, what's this going to look like? You know, is there a 30 or 40 team breakaway where you never get to play them?
Yeah,
and the rules are different,
that's where it's going.
You're on the outside. Okay, well, that irritates people because before there was a chance.
It should.
There was a chance to improve yourself, and like BYU can't get to and sustain the level of fill in the blank. They can't do what Alabama did with Saban, right? But one day when Miami was at the top, BYU took them down, and it was glorious.
And Appalachian State beat Michigan in the Big House. That's going to happen, though.
But if that stuff gets legislated away.
It won't be legislated away. It'll still happen to it, but it's going to be in small doses. That's why you remember it, because it is in small doses.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Ohio State and Michigan are going to remain Ohio State and Michigan largely, and they'll have times they won't be able to sustain it, just like, you know, Texas in a certain part of the country is, Texas, and we have Barry Trammell on. He's like, Texas is only, Texas like once every decade. You know, 8 or 9 years.
Oh, that's bad management.
It is. And they're scuffling around. But Texas Tech wants the chance to play Texas and beat them, and you only get to beat them when it's bad management. There are people very close to the University of Utah.
But that's always been that way.
Who love the fact that Utah got to beat USC, but who also acknowledge they only did it because USC had bad management. If USC gets good management, when they get the Pete Carrolls and the John Robinsons and the John McKays,
now they're ready to compete. They just needed 4 years to get to this point.
Yeah, but they don't even get to play Lincoln Riley now because stuff changes. And they'd love to play Lincoln Riley every year and beat him every year. It's glorious when it happened, just like it was glorious when BYU beat Miami.
But there's always going to be those tiers. Utah took it to the max.
Mm-hmm.
And good for them.
To their max.
Yes, to their max. And it was great. I was there for every one of those games.
Now, there are hardcore Ute fans who are like, hey, there was a time we never thought we were capable of doing that.
Absolutely.
So even now we think, well, they're not capable of doing that, but maybe they are.
No, they're not.
Because they didn't ever think they'd be in a Rose Bowl.
No,
they didn't ever think
they took it to the max.
They didn't think they'd beat USC and Oregon.
That was awesome.
Twice in the same year, back to back.
Great. And when Oregon had bad management, and they took advantage of it. Good. And Utah has a great program. I respect it immensely. Absolutely. They've got everything they need to have a quality program, but they're never going to be Alabama. They're never going to be, and I realize they beat Alabama, and they're never going to be Ohio State. And this is the way it is.
See, to what Nick Saban said is if you don't have the money to invest and then you can't win and then the people stop coming, isn't there a little bit of worry that if something doesn't happen, that could happen to Utah?
What do you mean?
Because the fans are now used to winning the 10, 11-win seasons.
No, I think they'll be okay there.
If the money changes to the point where you got to work really hard and be really smart to win 8 games or 9 games, is that they're going to get criticized for that. And I bring that up because it's happened at other schools, right? Solich couldn't match what Osborne did, but Solich did a lot more than anybody else has done the last 25 years.
And they made a bad decision.
But he got run.
Yeah.
So if that happens,
but they tasted the ultimate fruit.
Yes, back-to-back national titles, long win streaks.
And so their expectations are through the roof. And in some ways, the world has changed, and they can't keep up to that level. They've slipped. There's no question about that they've slipped. I saw Utah just run them up and down the field in Vegas. It was awesome.
It was.
Utah's program is way better than Nebraska's. I'm only talking – when I say Utah can't get there, using them as the example, I'm talking about 5, maybe 6 or 7. But then they're right there. And that's a great place to be.
5, 6, 7 programs, you're saying. Right.
Yeah. So I am not disrespecting the U of U at all.
Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame. Maybe.
And then there may be a little variance there.
Penn State sometimes, but not others.
Well, they had to overcome just a horrific situation, and we'll see what they've got going forward. They may have panicked by getting rid of Franklin less than a year after he's in the playoff. That may be a horrendous move. That may be a bad decision. I mean, Franklin he won a lot of ball games, man. My gosh. So he didn't win the ultimate. Well, let's get rid of him. Oh, brother. And they lost a couple of games this year. And maybe, circumstances. I wasn't close to the program this past season, obviously. But Utah and BYU, they're in great spots. They feel competitive programs. The places are full. They're in a great market where we give virtual year-round attention to their programs. I don't think they could ask for anything more. As a Sun Devil fan, if you told me that I could have the run that Utah's had since they got their bearings in the Pac-12, I'm totally fine with it. Maybe I have a little perspective. I'm not a win-at-all-cost guy. I'm not either you win the national title or it's a bitter disappointment. I don't go there. Because I view it as entertainment. And Utah has put on an entertaining product for many, many years, and I believe they'll put on an entertaining product this year. They'll have a good team. The fans they'll have good times. They go with their families to tailgate and all that. So I look at it I look at Saturdays from like 6 a.m. to midnight. And did I have a great Saturday? I'm not necessarily dependent upon some score by some 20-year-olds to determine whether I had a good Saturday or not.
I just can't kick it off at 6 a.m. 9:30, I'm with you. 9:30. I'll do the last half hour with the picks on the pregame show, and then I'm into the game.
But the reason why I say that is because I know people who get up
100%.
to the campus to secure their places, and they rotate. It's your week to get your butt up there early and set up. That's why I don't do that,
I know those
but
people.
I've seen it.
You're right. Those people are absolutely
I mean, Saturday's a work day for me,
right?
And it will be, and thankfully it's a work day because I love doing it.
If you get a 10 a.m. or a 1:30 kickoff, then it's really on early in the morning. But you're right. There are people up there even if they're kicking off in the third or fourth TV window.
I mean, I already got, which is September 12th, I believe it is. I've already got my day planned.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be at LaVell Edwards Stadium, and it's going to be the Arizona Wildcats coming in to play the BYU Cougars. I'm fired up for that game.
It's a good Saturday.
I want to be there.
Yeah. You know it's a good Saturday.
Yes.
And it's September and we're in June.
Right, and I think it starts 1:30 our time.
It does.
So I'll probably get home around 7 or 8 o'clock. By the time I get done, drive back, blah, blah, blah. And what am I going to do? I'm going to turn on Utah, Arkansas.
8:30 kick.
Yeah.
Right. That's actually really good that it's the second and fourth TV window because you need the third TV window to do the post-game stuff you got to do, the interviews, the hopping on a post-game
and I'll
show
write
on the
for
phone.
KSL Sports.
You write something up. You got to drive back.
Yeah. And
they scheduled that very well for you.
And then I'll plop my butt down, and I'll be watching the Ute game. Yeah.
DJ PK, well, the thing is, whatever rules they draw up, is it going to enable schools to move up? The way ASU changed their trajectory of their program from the 60s to the 80s.
I would like to think so.
It's kind of been static since then, as you have documented, ups and downs here and there, but it's kind of static.
Yeah.
But they really, just like Utah from...
Since it was static when John Cooper left Tempe to go where?
Ohio State.
I rest my case.
There it is. All right, DJ and PK. When we come back, Andy Bailey joins us, NBA analyst and writer for Bleacher Report, his take on Game 1 of the NBA Finals and where we go from here. Stay with us. Join Scotty G and the coach Tim Lacombe tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Larry H. Miller Summer Games in Cedar City. Celebrate 40 years of a Utah sports tradition. DJ and PK, the KSL Give-a-Thon is underway to benefit Intermountain Health and Primary Children's Hospital. You can contribute right now. They have so many people going through their emergency room, saying like 60,000 people. In 2025, they got the final numbers in from last year. Patients benefited from $7.5 million in financial assistance provided by philanthropy dollars. That's what we're doing today, raising money for Primary Children's. You can call right now, 801-KSL-KIDS, 801-KSL-KIDS, 801-575-5437, or log on and donate online at kslkids.com, kslkids.com. There are a lot of kids, and they've got photos of the kids and their bios, an 8-month-old with spina bifida, 12-year-old with severe bilateral cleft lip. There's just on and on. High school graduate with an undiagnosed genetic condition. There's all kinds of tragic stories. You shared one about your family and a cousin with leukemia, PK. There's just tons of stories out there. So you can help right now. Donate online, kslkids.com, kslkids.com, or call 801-KSL-KIDS. DJ and PK, we're joined once again by Andy Bailey, NBA analyst and writer for Bleacher Report. Andy, good morning. Game 1 of the NBA Finals in the book. We can't wait to find out what you thought of that game and what you think about this series going forward.
I thought it was a blast, honestly, and thanks for having me, guys. Before we jump into that, I just think it's cool that you guys are doing that fundraiser, too. It's a different hospital, but I had 3 sons who spent time in children's hospitals, and those are pretty amazing places. So, to the finals, I thought it was a great game. I thought it was refreshing to not have to worry about flopping as much as I did last series, and part of that is my fault. I just can't I can't get off that topic. It drives me nuts, but it was nice to not really deal with it. I thought both teams played with a ton of effort and energy, and for a little bit there, and I even tweeted about it, and look, I was one of the fools who looked kind of dumb in hindsight, but when San Antonio went up 13 or 14 or whatever it was, I said something like, well, it's kind of hard to see New York's path in this series, even though I picked the Knicks before it started. They just looked they were kind of overwhelming in the same way they were to the Thunder. They're just big, athletic, and just constant effort. But finally, I think really for the first time all postseason, the experience thing maybe caught up to the Spurs in the fourth quarter, and you could see that the Knicks had been through a lot more battles like this, and specifically Jalen Brunson. And so ultimately, I think the game played out kind of the way I thought it would before the series started. I thought the Knicks would have that edge experience-wise. I certainly wavered from that take in the third quarter, but their just experience and competitiveness proved to be the trump card in that one.
Yeah, I think that when you go with the experience, and we were talking about this, you see them, they're down by those double digits. You still have a quarter and a half to go, roughly. So you're not really seeing a whole lot of panic. I mean, my gosh, just look what they did against Cleveland in the fourth quarter. And you talk about the inexperience of the Spurs, and we were talking about this earlier, that I thought watching the Spurs celebrate with that little flurry at the end of the first half, thinking, guys, what are you doing? You hit a few shots. I mean, they were racing out to half court as if it was one of these some of these other leagues where you got points if you won a quarter. Like you actually won something. You're going into halftime with half the game to go, obviously, and you're up 7. And I just thought they were expending too much emotion, acting like it was a big deal, where next year, whenever it is, whether it's this series or, we expect them to be in this position for several years to come, I think you're going to see them walk off the floor and not act like such a big deal. Like you accomplished something. All you had was a 7-point lead. Whoop-de, good for you. But it's not anything to go be all joyous about. And I thought that was their inexperience. Where the Knicks, even though they're losing at that point, they're unfazed.
Yeah, a couple things on that. First of all, I kind of appreciate that the Spurs aren't afraid to show how much this means to them, and specifically Wemby. But I also think that it was pretty illuminating to watch some of the side-by-side comparisons of the way they celebrated the conference finals win and the way the Knicks celebrated it. And the Spurs kind of celebrated it like they'd already won it all, and the Knicks kind of just walked off the court because they knew there was more to come.
Right.
And what you just described was kind of a microcosm of that. The Knicks, the Spurs looked a little too giddy at the end of the first half, and the Knicks, by the same token, did not look rattled to be on the other end of that. And then the other thing is specifically with the Knicks, getting out in front of your skis a little bit is more dangerous against them than it is against other teams. And I can't remember who posted it, and I can't remember the exact time frame, but I think it was the Jalen Brunson era of Knicks basketball. There's something like, I think it said 6-6 when they're down 14 in the second half of playoff games. And in the same stretch, every other team in the NBA is 10-100 in that same scenario when you get down 14 in the second half. So there's just something about Brunson and this entire team that they're just not, they're not rattled by big deficits in the second half. He's a huge part of that. I think his supporting cast is awesome at supporting him. But yeah, you cannot get ahead of yourself with this Knicks team. This run that they're on is crazy at this point. And a big part of it is they just sort of, they stay in the pocket, they stay settled down, and eventually they start landing some of those blows and kind of pulled away by the end of this game. It was another double-digit victory. And I was just looking at the box score before we got on. The Spurs only won one quarter in that game. And really, the Knicks jumped out to a quick lead, so you could say the Spurs won like an 8-minute stretch in the first quarter. And then obviously they had the good stretch in the third too. But the Knicks, in a lot of ways, controlled the game and certainly controlled the end of it. And I think they're in pretty good shape now.
See, it's funny. I didn't think the Knicks controlled the game offensively. I thought they controlled it defensively.
Right.
They get like Harper got hot in the first quarter. That's why they won the first quarter. Champagne got hot in the second quarter. That's why San Antonio, after giving away the lead, had the halftime lead because he hit 5 3-pointers. That's who was dancing around. The PK was referring to, and I'm right with you guys on that. That was way too much celebration. 7-point game in the second quarter. So what? Nobody really got going for him in the second half, but they did have a 9-0 run and take the lead at 95-94. I don't think the Knicks were in control in that moment. It felt like it was slipping away. That's why the game was so epic. There was so much back and forth. I think you said like 10 things I want to react to, Andy. That was such a great. So first off, I think flopping's always a big deal. I think people make a bigger deal in Oklahoma City because there's generally a feel in the league that Seattle should have never lost the team. Oklahoma City shouldn't have the team. They shouldn't have all these good teams. And big markets hate it when little markets win. And there's way too many New York honks in the national media who are getting all weepy because it's their team, and they're whining. And there's also an L.A. honk in the media who's whining about him all the time also. And I think Brunson flops. He was complaining for fouls. He was, in the words of Brian Dunseth, who I called soccer games with, he was pulling up the landing gear and falling down, which I've heard Steph Curry does it too, but people say Steph does it so he doesn't turn an ankle. It's easier to fall down, but it does leave the team 5-on-4 going the other way defending, which can be a problem if the other team's savvy enough to take advantage of it. I thought that Karl Anthony Towns getting in the huddle and telling guys, hey, the offense comes and goes, and it'll be like Cleveland, we'll figure it out, but we have to keep defending. San Antonio only got 95 points. Now, some of that's missing open shots. Fox missed at least 2, maybe 3 good looks at 3 early. He was 0 for 3 early from 3. Maybe one of them wasn't a great look, but 2 of them were. But I thought they took away layups and dunks, and they made Wemby make free throws, and they fouled guys on breakaways so the crowd can't erupt. Even if you get the points at the free throw line, the momentum's not the same. I thought it was a really savvy performance by the Knicks. Part of their savviness is good fortune. They didn't celebrate leaving the floor in Cleveland because it was 4-0, and Cleveland was a broken team in Game 2. The Knicks knew they were going to win this series for a long time, whereas the Spurs took down the champs by winning 6 and 7 and winning a pretty wild game on the road. So I get it, but it does play into their immaturity. They were played a tougher hand, and it did play into their maturity.
Yeah, I think, speaking of making a lot of good points in one go, you just did that as well. I think you make some maybe New York didn't ever have great control of the game, and the way you broke down the runs was good, but I would say that they never lost control either.
That's true.
And it was, I think it was because of their defense, which you also mentioned, and you brought up Cat, and Brunson's going to get most of the attention, and Josh Hart has understandably gotten a lot of attention. I love the way he plays. I love how hard he plays without, he checks so many boxes without scoring. But the guy who may have had the biggest impact was Karl Anthony Towns, and it was on the defensive end. I wrote about what he did after the game, and I watched every single shot that Wemby took when Towns was his primary defender, and he was 2 of 12 in that scenario, and he made his first shot on Towns the very start of the game. So he was 1 of 11 after that. And every shot was tightly contested. He stuck with him on whatever moves Wemby was trying to pull. The one that he did make late was, I won't say it was lucky, but it was an and one, and he just kind of flipped it up and it went in. His defense was fantastic, and it was a big part of the Knicks not losing control of that game. I think you can point to stuff that a bunch of different guys did. Bridges didn't have a big box score game, but he was good defensively. Anunoby hit some massive shots late. Shamet has suddenly become this invaluable bench player, seemingly every time he's out there. But specifically last night, I think Cat was the biggest performer, and I think this whole postseason is really interesting for me because he's been kind of a punching bag in the playoffs over the years, and this postseason, he's been fantastic. He's been one of their best playmakers. His defense has been better. His fouls have been a little bit better. He's just been awesome. I think he's a huge part of this run for them.
I'm going to use a comparison of a Spurs player as it relates to the Jazz in the draft, and you'll see what I'm getting at here in a second. I think that in conversation, I think the Jazz are growing more comfortable with the thought of bringing on Darren Peterson onto their team if it comes to that. They still got 3 weeks to go, so things can happen. I'm not reporting that they are going to take Darren Peterson. I am saying that they're growing more comfortable with the idea of taking him. And as I watch the Spurs with the number 2 pick last year, Dylan Harper, and having him being a rookie and having a nice game in Game 1, the future is very bright for this young man. But in my conversations, I was talking with someone, and I think what I've been able to watch of Darren Peterson and Harper, and we talked about it. We knew the Jazz obviously were going to be in the lottery a year ago, so we ended up DJ and myself end up watching Rutgers. I watched more Rutgers basketball last year than I'm going to watch in my entire life, because I knew obviously they had 2 players, and they ended up getting one of them, clearly in Ace Bailey. And so with that in mind, we're watching. I have a Wooden Award vote also, so I pay attention to the top guys. And BYU and Utah are in the same league. So I end up watching Peterson. And plus you can see them now on these other competitions even before they get to college. So my statement, a long way of saying, I think that Darren Peterson can be better than what Dylan Harper is right now. Get your evaluation of that assessment.
I don't think that's too crazy. First of all, Dylan Harper has been unbelievable in the playoffs.
Right.
And this is kind of a backtrack at this point, but we talked about inexperience, and I think one of the guys who really showed inexperience last night might have been Mitch Johnson, the Spurs coach, because to not close with Harper was almost inexplicable to me. So now that I say that, it is kind of a high bar to think that Darren Peterson, by the time the next postseason rolls around, could be as unflappable as Harper has been in this postseason, or at least it seems like a high bar. But I think he might have that same sort of approach to big moments. Now, he was knocked out of a lot of them in this college season, and I think there's a lot of fair questions about why and if that stuff will continue to the NBA level. But as you said, I think as teams do their homework on him, if they feel comfortable thinking that they can get through the health things or the mental barriers, whatever it was that knocked him out of some of those games, he has had a lot of moments in his very young basketball career where he rises to the challenge and looks like the best player on the floor against very good competition. It's not easy to be a rookie guard in the NBA and look like a veteran through a run to the finals. And the chances of Utah going on a deep playoff run are pretty slim, obviously. But your overarching point that he can be a very good guard right off the bat, I don't think that's crazy at all. I think he has a chance to be very impactful right off the bat, and that's going to help. It's not really revelatory at this point. Like, it's almost becoming trendy to say that the Jazz are going to be pretty good next year, and I think Peterson would absolutely help with that. The thing about being number 2 in this particular draft, I think Utah's going to be pretty good regardless of who they take there, and I think regardless of who it is, he's going to make an impact on that.
Right. Yeah.
So PK always says we got to talk about the NBA playoffs through the eyes of what does this tell us about the Jazz? And now he does it with the Stanley Cup playoffs. What does it tell us about the Mammoth? So with that in mind, watching Wemby, if he's in the paint, offensively or defensively, your odds of winning and beating the Spurs are terrible. It might happen, but they are not good odds. If you can move him to the perimeter, he still might beat you up pretty bad, but you at least have a fighting chance. You got to be physical with him, but you have to be mobile enough that you can be physical with him 25 feet from the hoop. And we saw in Oklahoma City, Hartenstein did a good job of battling, and Wemby had some bad games. Had some great games, but had some bad games. His best game, they didn't have Hartenstein on him in game 1. They tried to get cute and go with someone smaller, and they got beat up really bad, and they stopped doing that right away. So with that in mind, do the Jazz have to add a backup center who can play the way Nurkic did at the top of the game, whether it's Nurkic or somebody else? Do they have to have somebody who can go play beyond the three-point line and pull Wemby away from the hoop, because they need Kessler's shot blocking? In a lot of playoff series, he'll be the guy, but in a playoff series with San Antonio, and you may not even have that series, but if you do, you better have somebody else, because he's not the right matchup based on the way what we saw Karl Anthony Towns do in game 1 and what we saw Hartenstein do in the Western Conference Finals. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's ever a bad idea to have depth all over the roster, including in the front court. What I would say about Utah, where they're maybe sort of ahead of the curve, they have multiple guys who can play that center position, and they have multiple guys who can play it in different ways. And if you have Triple J at the 5, you need everybody else on the floor to rebound, because he's a pretty bad rebounder. But I think he checks that box that you just brought up about being able to chase Wemby on the outside, and I actually think he might be better at that than just about anybody in the league. He's a very mobile defender on the perimeter, and I think maybe even Markkanen could chase him around a little bit on the outside. And then at the same time, you have the ability to go with the more traditional interior center like Kessler. I think there's already a lot of versatility in that Jazz front court, and we, 10 years ago now, maybe a little bit more, there was a lot of talk about the depth of the center position, and that turned out to be pretty short-lived, because I think size and athleticism are super important now, and the Jazz, again, I think they're ahead of the curve. I think they have size and athleticism. If they add DeBonsa or Peterson to this group, they can play some huge lineups that don't really give up a ton of mobility. And even if you're worried about, okay, Markkanen's going to have to play the 3, and he's probably going to be beat off the dribble by some guys at that position, you have 2 absolute erasers waiting on the back line in Kessler and Triple J, either together or, you could stagger those 2 pretty significantly. And I think there's already a lot of lineup or potential lineup versatility with this team, and they could be one of the better Wemby and Spurs matchups over the next few years. It seems kind of funny to say that about a team that's been so bad wins and losses wise over the last few years, but I think they're going to be able to flip a switch pretty quickly at this point.
You know, Andy, I'm known for off-the-wall questions, and you got Wyoming in your background. I've always felt that if they would have put the state's flagship university in Wyoming in Jackson instead of Laramie, they would be a national power.
Oh, well, I was just in Jackson a week ago, maybe. Mm-hmm. That really is an unbelievable part of the country. And Laramie's beautiful, too. But you get some kid from California or Texas or another warm climate, and they come and visit Laramie in the winter. That's going to be a turnoff for a lot of guys. It's pretty cold.
I go up to Jackson every year. I'll be up there in a couple of weeks, and boy, and I go in the summer, obviously. Although I've been a couple of times in the winter, and it is spectacular.
Yeah, I usually drive up from the south because I'm in Cheyenne, but I was there for work with my brother, and he said, you need to take the northern route home where you drive in front of the Tetons for a few miles. And I hadn't done that in forever, and it is spectacular. It's just a beautiful drive.
Can you imagine what the state legislature in Wyoming would have to pay faculty and staff to live in Jackson Hole, and what they get to pay them? Because
they live in Driggs, Idaho.
Everybody lives in Driggs and drives over the mountain.
Yeah. We'd have a bunch of legislators coming from out of state.
Yeah. Andy, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the finals, and we will talk to you again before the draft, I'm sure.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Andy Bailey, NBA analyst and writer for Bleacher Report, join us right here on The Zone. Shehan Jayarajah, CBS Sports national college football writer, will join us at 9 o'clock. We'll get his thoughts on the Big 12. Our spring football tour continues with him coming up in about 15 minutes right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. DJ and PK, we're broadcasting live. We're downstairs in Studio A now, PK.
I feel more important today.
KSLkids.com. That's the place to go online to donate to support the mission of Children's Hospital. As Andy Bailey pointed out, there are children's hospitals everywhere. We're talking about primary children's here in Utah today. KSLkids.com. They see over 60,000 people in the emergency room, provide more than $7.5 million of financial aid thanks to philanthropy. That's what we're working on today. They've given us this sheet with the pictures of all the adorable kids, from infants to teenagers, and they're dealing with all kinds of stuff. Spina bifida, uses a wheelchair. Max injured in a motocross. Lucy went to the ER with a headache, diagnosed with a stroke after a consultation.
Gosh, you're kidding
So
me.
part of what they do, I did not know this. I just read this prepping for today. One thing Primary Children's provides, if you're in southern Utah or rural Idaho, there's a telestroke network. And so this girl, Lucy, had what do you think, 15 maybe? Went in with a headache, a really bad headache. They were able to diagnose a stroke. And then a doctor who may not see this all the time, might not have as much experience or expertise, can consult with a doctor in Salt Lake at Primary Children's, who maybe has focused their whole career on this and just knows way more.
Right. Experts.
And Lucy gets better care, and now Lucy's doing well. And so all of this stuff takes money and resources. So anything you can provide right now, make a donation to support a kid like Lucy, who now apparently is doing really well. After getting that real-time access to stroke experts at Primary Children's Hospital. Cole is a 12-year-old spina bifida in a wheelchair. They just go on and on with the kids and stories. Ellie Tibbs, who, I don't know, what do you think? It's got to be younger than 2, right? Right there?
Yeah.
Liver transplant. So they're just seeing people having all kinds of issues, as you might expect. You're dealing with the whole Intermountain West, people relying on Primary Children's. So anything you can do to help, 801-KSL-KIDS. Call right now, 801-KSL-KIDS, or go to KSLkids.com and donate online.
I'm always big at making a difference at the ground level. Mm-hmm. I talk about that. This is the ground level. You make a difference literally at this level, which is the ground level, which I think, in my own personal opinion, is the most important level to make a difference, because that's where it starts, and then it changes lives upward.
So if I follow you around town, will I see the bumper sticker on your car, think globally, act locally? That's kind of what you're saying. At least act locally.
Deep. That's a little too deep for me. I'm not that deep.
4 words. It's just way too much. Just got to stick to 2.
Right.
All right. 801-KSL-KIDS. Call and donate right now. 801-KSL-KIDS, or go to KSLkids.com. When we come back, Shehan Jayarajah. CBS Sports national college football writer on the Big 12. What does he think? We will find out next. Stay with us.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.